I always think Doctor Who fans are a bit like football fans. I really liked David Tennant. I was of the age when the show came back in 2005 for him to be kind of the guy. But I just thought Matt Smith was really good in it. I think he's a great actor. In performance, he's more emotional than we've seen before, which is a little controversial with some fans. I think some fans think there's maybe a bit too much of that.
With all my adventures,
Never seen anything like this before.
Oh my, Bridgerton! This place is completely mad.
Things seem to be turning more and more supernatural.
Is that a monster?
No, don't be silly. There's no such thing as monsters. They're just creatures you haven't met yet.
We do have a Christmas special, which have you seen or not seen?
I will not speak on that topic.
I think that might mean he has, but he's not allowed to tell us he has. This is like super injunction territory. Okay, what can we expect over Christmas from the Whovian, what do you call it? The Whoniverse.
Yeah, well, so there's a new Christmas special. It's called Joy to the World, written by Steven Moffat, who, if you don't know, used to be in charge of Doctor Who from about 2010 to 2017. These days, he's not in charge. Someone else was in charge of it after him. And then Russell T Davies, who was in charge of it before him, came back. It's all very... I was trying to avoid the phrase timey-wimey. That is a phrase that gets used a lot for Doctor Who. But yes, so Russell invited Stephen back to write this year's Christmas special. So it's a bit of a homecoming for him. And it stars Ncuti Gatwa is the Doctor. He's still the Doctor for the last year or so. And Nicola Coughlan is the one-off companion of Derry Girls and Bridgerton fame called Joy. And the episode is set in a time hotel in the far future, which basically means that you can open the door of your hotel room and you are landed in the Orient Express, Christmas 1950. Open a different door, you are at Christmas 12 million BC, or what the equivalent day would be, I suppose, and checking out some, dinosaurs or whatever. And
Christmas Day before Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Okay.
And yeah, basically it's a hotel where you can go to any Christmas, any time.
Quite
throughout
fun.
History. Yes. And then they have to obviously chase a villain through various periods of history to try and stop them from destroying the world.
And off we go.
Off we go.
In your expert opinion, what makes this Doctor different from previous residents of the TARDIS? What does Ncuti bring? Yeah.
Well, he's probably the best looking person to ever be the Doctor.
Oh, John Pertwee, come on.
Well, John Pertwee is probably genuinely a close second, but no, Ncuti Gatwa was very good looking, which sounds very trite, but he's very charismatic in person and on screen, which obviously all actors are pretty charismatic, but he particularly kind of shines from it.
Okay.
And he is probably, in performance, he's more emotional than we've seen before, which is a little controversial with some fans. I think some fans think there's maybe a bit too much of that, but it is a difference. It helps delineate the actors. And he comes off... The funny thing is, he's not the youngest person to play the role. He comes off very young. But Matt Smith was younger and Peter Davison was younger when they both did it.
Remind me, you're the 18th most knowledgeable person in
Doctor
Who
I say
land.
that, but there's about 3 or 4 people in the office who would tell you the age Peter Davison was on his 15th episode. Do you know what I mean? Like I know roughly
Scary.
that he was the second youngest. Yeah.
And what makes Doctor Who relevant in 2024? We know that it's got the BBC brand, but it's got the Disney money. We know it's celebrated its 60th birthday. It clearly is still considered a get by both the BBC and now Disney as well. They've got Russell T Davies back in the stable. They've got Steven Moffat on board. David Tennant has done appropriate guest appearances. So clearly a lot of people think this is an important thing. You can tell I'm speaking from a deliberately neutral stance. Why is Doctor Who important in 2024? What does it bring that other programmes don't?
I think it just brings these people love it. People love it and obsess over it in a way that you kind of don't. I mean, because something like Call the Midwife gets more viewing figures in the UK and people love that show, and there are a lot of fans who absolutely love that show. Yep. But Call the Midwife does not make the same headlines as Doctor Who because it's a show where the sort of specific details of casting and storyline and, whatever monsters they've got in, for some reason, really, really strike out at people. People are massively interested in that stuff. And people who love Doctor Who obsess over it. It's a show that kind of rewards an interest in the detail and things like that. But the reason is, I have to be a bit cagey, is that any other show, if I said, I think this, or I've done this, or this is what I know about it, people would listen to it and be, oh, that's interesting. Genuinely, even from this, if you say, oh, this is what happens in a casual way, someone will listen to this, someone would, write it down and it would become a thing.
Take it to heart.
Yeah, so I think that's why. In terms of, so I think that's what these big companies want, is they want stuff that people really care about and that people will kind of come back to. I mean, it's a bit like, I always think Doctor Who fans are a bit like football fans, in that it's sort of like if you support Newcastle United, which is I'm not a big football fan, but it's my dad's team. You know, it's not always about thinking, oh, they've done great every game, or it's not always, you know, you can say, oh, it's amazing. You sort of follow them, and you sort of
You're there for the lean periods.
You're there for the highs and the lows.
Okay.
There's a lot of fans who were there in the 90s where it wasn't really on.
All right.
And yeah, sorry, I'm talking too much.
No, you're not at all.
That's Doctor Who.
This is your wheelhouse.
I suppose so.
Your TARDIS house. Final question on Doctor Who. I'm going to put you on the spot. Ncuti apart, who's your favourite?
Matt Smith.
Oh, that didn't take long, did it? It was not even a seemly pause.
I had to write something about this recently. I mean, for me, it would be a bit of a toss-up, to be honest, because I really liked David Tennant. I was of the age when the show came back in 2005 for him to be kind of the guy. But I just thought Matt Smith was really good in it. I think he's a great actor.